cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
Does it exist? Are we going to get cancelled if we talk about it? What does it mean?
Yes to all three. What does it mean? Yes.
How
So, no, I think cancel culture does exist in the definition that I am going to... Actually, shall we get a definition up?
Let's get a definition. Like, how do we
usually-
define cancel culture?
Yeah, 'cause
how do you
usually-
define cancel culture?
Well, I'm going to look it up because I have a definition, but I don't know if it's right. Okay, well,
What's the definition?
my
Yeah.
definition is essentially judgment by a crowd. So instead of having like the legal system or whatever, like there's a social level of judgment that people use to go after someone, but the way they go after someone is always like in a negative fashion. So it's like they'll go after the people that sponsor you or whatever, just to make sure that you don't do this thing again. So that's their version of justice.
Right.
That's a very long-winded, but yeah, that's my understanding. What about you?
Yeah, I would say similar. I don't think judgment alone is cancel culture. I think cancel culture would be to the point where...
Justice.
Sorry?
Justice. Achieving justice, not just judgment, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think it'll be a step further where that said individual who is perceived to have done something would then be either driven off completely from doing what they're doing, or their career to end as a result of something they might have said or done, either in presence or maybe in the past. So that's how I would define it. What's the official definition? So Wikipedia says it's a contemporary phrase used to refer a form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of a social or professional circle, whether it be online, social media, or in person. So those subject to this are said to have been quote unquote cancelled. The expression cancel culture has mostly negative connotations and is used in debates on free speech and censorship.
Okay. So what is your premise for saying that it doesn't exist?
I don't think it exists in the way we think it does. Because a lot of the times in the examples, like say, like what's an example of someone being cancelled? Can you think of like a big high case?
Louis C.K.
Okay, so for Louis C.K. to have been cancelled, is he completely...
He's come back recently, yes.
That's what I mean. So I think the reason for me saying it is it's we think cancel culture has a very permanent impact, and I think there is for some people maybe a little bit. Yeah, but he's come back as well. He's
Really?
Kevin. But then, like, see,
Harvey Weinstein?
but then Harvey Weinstein's done some stuff compared to.
But he's still cancelled.
No. But I think, yeah, like say compare.
So wait, are you saying that cancel culture is only for menial stuff? So it's like not an actual crime.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I would say actual crime versus saying something on Twitter. But again, what you say also, I think there's a degree, there's like a spectrum of stuff that you need to do. And I say this, like the only times I say where it doesn't exist in the way we think is because we think that someone might have done something or said something wrong on Twitter or elsewhere. We want to cancel them, but I think whatever impact is upon them is temporary.
Right. I agree with that.
The only time that it's permanently cancelled is when they might have done something that is actually a crime, and where the judiciary side of things is involved.
Right. I agree with that, but I also believe that as time goes on, I think this will have less and less effect. So it's like, someone saying something derogatory on Twitter wouldn't get them cancelled as badly as it would have in 2016.
Yeah, because I think we're at the peak, or I think we even have reached that peak to an extent. I think at one point people were very, very careful and cautious of what they say, and I think some people are over it and are just because now they're saying it has no meaning or impact really.
It's like if you call everyone racist, then it's like then the word loses meaning.
Exactly,
and the real racist can just get.
So I think the example that I'm going to bring up is Joe Rogan, for example. So he was.
Sorry,
I've heard he used to like host TV shows and stuff.
All right. The Fear Factor guy.
That's how I know him. But he has said some stuff, like controversial in the sense of either like not promoting. I don't think this is the right word. Not encouraging, but implying in a lot of ways that vaccines and COVID and all that kind of stuff, which you can look up online to have your own opinion. But the idea that he was cancelled during those opinions, or his information.
Was he though?
There was part where he was,
He had little labels, but that's
no. Like with Spotify, like there were calls of him being to be deplatformed from Spotify.
Yeah, but it didn't happen, so he wasn't actually
No,
cancelled.
they deleted a lot of his previous videos, but that's because of the racial stuff he also mentioned. So he used the N-word a lot.
Right, yeah.
And those videos those episodes were taken down.
Okay.
But you're right in the sense that any of the COVID related or vaccine related stuff where he have presented information, there was a label or disclaimer added to that. So during that whole phase of when people were calling him to be deplatformed and whatnot, he actually gained 2 million more subscribers during that whole period. So in a lot of ways, it does work in the sense of, you get a lot more attention. And for someone as big, when you're as that big, like, Joe Rogan sometimes says that people can't speak out anymore. Like, dude, you're the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah.
You're the last person to say that you can't speak out. But I think it's the repercussions that he's framing that, you can't speak out because you'll
as you're saying this, I'm thinking of some other things. Now, I can't name specific cases because it's all fuzzy, but I know that this has happened before where someone said something online. They're not a big celebrity or whatever. They're just an average guy or girl or woman or man. And then essentially what happens is people say, oh, you said this thing, and then they call up their workplace and get them fired, and then they can't get another job because their name's kind of out there in that situation.
So what do you think of that? I think so first of all, what are your thoughts around something like that happening?
I don't think. Well, it depends on what they did, but
that's right.
For most of the time, I don't think it's right though. So a novel idea, a novel concept. You heard it here first. Instead of cancel culture, counsel culture. So you tell the person what they did is wrong and why. You talk to them, reason with them, and instead of having this abrasive interaction, you actually reason with the person so they still have the result of not doing it again, but without ruining their lives and being better off and educated for it. What do you think?
I think it's easier said than done, especially when it's done via texts on a screen. On Twitter, I think it's impossible. To be fair, but in theory, I think that definitely is the way to go, because there's an example that we shared in another of the video where someone was being very aggressive and negative to this actor. I forgot the details, but he said that the actor should have died in that movie in real life instead. And the actor then went onto the guy's Twitter profile just trying to, have a go at him, and saw that he had a life-threatening disease. He was on hospital beds. Instead of having a go at him, the actor started a GoFundMe page, got lots of money for the guy, gave him a life-changing surgery through that money, and basically the guy said, I'll be, I'm thankful, I can't believe this happened. I'll try to be more positive in life. So that is an example in some ways of counsel culture. But I think, like, in theory, it should work. Like, just being nicer to someone. But I don't know if
so it's not like, a few individuals can start doing it and it's going to work. But I'm just saying, if we replace the norm of cancel culture with counsel culture, where it was the norm to just be like, hey man, like, that's not on and this is why, etc. I think that it would be in the end more beneficial than what we have, because you're getting people that are either financially hurt, and then people that are just angry on the other side. And it's, instead of having like a better understanding and agreement from talking, it's just this straight up witch hunt, which can sometimes even wrongly accuse someone, or
I think that's the difficult part, is because a lot of the times you can wrongly accuse someone, right? Because a lot of the things are taken out of context, and then you basically can end someone's livelihood because the mob decides that that person has done or said something. But again, as you mentioned, it just depends on what is being said. Like if someone's being openly racist, on Twitter.
Sorry, just one thing. So I was watching this this YouTube video, and it was about, I can't remember what the name of the person was, because I hadn't heard of them. It was kind of just like I stumbled across it and I was like, oh, I'll watch it. So it was like the fall of this Minecraft YouTuber, I'm pretty sure, right. And they were like, yeah, really young, like 17 or something. And then someone like, well, everyone thought they were annoying. Like the community thought they were annoying, so they were hated already. But then someone photoshopped an image of them talking on Discord and like using racial slurs and everything, and they never did it. And then like people were like, oh, let's get him, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, like it came out that it didn't happen. But that kind of, not everyone got that message. So it was still a stain on that person, even though it didn't happen. So it was like, yeah, it's quite dangerous to just use like the wisdom of the crowds and like follow what everyone else is doing, and a pylon mentality. I think it's quite dangerous because not everyone's thinking at that stage. It's kind of everyone's just going with what the crowd is
seems to me it stems from the idea of a bit of education as well. I think one bad thing about the internet being available for all, at all demographics, at all ages, at all places in the world, is that there's no onboarding. Like people are just, no, here's the internet. You know, like there's no 101s, there's no moral ways of using it, there's no understanding.
But I think, you know, you've got to even go before that. Like people should learn what to do and what not to do to other people before getting on the internet. Like, as in, the internet isn't the problem; it's the people using it.
Oh no, I know, but the thing is, because of and that's what I keep saying about tech and internet, and it's just like it amplifies what we are in person rather than us turning into that person a lot of the times. So it's like because a lot of the times, these phones are available everywhere, internet's available everywhere. A lot of these people haven't left their cities. They don't know what the other side looks like. Like, and they're just going on about just being racist or being angry towards a different culture, for example, or someone else with a different identity. Like, that's where all these problems happen, because we don't understand the other side. So it's, I don't know what, like, other than education, in terms of, it's not the job of the internet per se, but I don't know how you'd get past something like this, right? Because it seems to me like that's where it stems from. It's because someone is actually racist, and it just amplifies through what they say online.
I guess there's definitely something to be said for that, because it's not like someone who is an upright person who's just going to work and doing whatever they do and the kindest person in the world. As soon as they turn on their computer, they're like, nah.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't happen that way. So like I think it just traces back to a societal problem, essentially. But then I guess we have to ask ourselves, the internet has been in the mainstream since, let's say, like early 2000s, right? Obviously early adopters were there way before, but like say, early 2000s broadband, everyone was kind of on the internet. Why did cancel culture not happen until like 2013, 2014, 15, 16, well, 16 was the big year. Why was it then? Facebook and all the social media platforms are around for a few years before that. So
I think I disagree. I think cancel culture had a different name or a different way of being displayed prior to the internet. So the idea of boycotting a company, for example, say if somebody, a prominent figure or a company did something, we would boycott their products. I think that was a theme that I've seen, for
that's true.
Decades and decades. And there's also the idea of the mob mentality, like protests and things of that
witch
sort.
Hunts, yeah.
But yeah, like the whole idea of
I get it.
Concept of witch hunts in itself is historic.
Yeah, it's basically cancel culture. But the thing is, I think what's changed here is that the grievances are becoming more and more flippant. It seems like maybe not so much now, but at least a few years ago, like it would be like the most minor thing could cause like a social infraction, a loss of credit scores. So I don't know. It seems like something's kind of changed in the way that everyone has to be hyper vigilant about what they say, because everything can be offensive. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where it's being it's gone to, because you are broadcasting yourself as you become a more prominent figure. And I think internet allows for anyone to be that figure. And because the recipient is not someone who's within your town or someone within a smaller community where you could have reached via what you say, anything and everything you say could be interpreted differently by someone who has no idea who you are, no understanding of the concept or the context that you're talking about, and could deem whatever you've said as a completely opposite thing that you've meant it to be, right? And that's why, again, like comedians get the biggest flack, because
must be hard,
they get the most hate in some ways, because they're, I remember seeing Russell Peters in 2006, 7-ish, some of the jokes he made at that time. I was laughing my arse off. He's literally making accents of Asian people being Chinese and Japanese and Filipino, and he's a brown dude.
Yeah.
Like full on insulting them. He's insulting his own like Indian culture. He's insulting white people, like all that kind of stuff. I grew up watching in some extent, and I was like, oh, this is funny because I'm not being racist here. I'm understanding like their culture through these jokes, and in some ways it made me appreciate the cultures a bit more, because I've found it through that, and now I didn't move to a different country back then. So it was interesting for me to see how this was, but now
you couldn't do it.
But here's the thing: you can do it. Like I'm sure he's still doing it. It's just like Dave Chappelle, for example. The amount of times he was cancelled.
No, but okay. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't feel the same. Like it's
I think
like
that's true.
It's like you do that.
That's where the difference is.
You do the joke in 2006, and it was like, this is funny. There's no thinking hard about it, or like second guessing or trying to get to some nefarious plot. It's just, that's the joke, and that is funny because that's what the culture was. But then now it's like
you have to do it despite.
Not just that. It's like the joke goes out there, and then like the audience is kind of like, yeah, that's funny, but it's a bit, really, should he have done that? And it's kind of like, it feels different.
Yeah. I think it's a bit confusing, because you want, improvement, quote unquote improvement, or people being more understanding of other cultures or of other identities and things of that sort. So I think it's that spectrum of where something is just so widened now. You just don't know where something sits, right? Like a joke or a comment or a status update. Like where do I put it?
It's back to postmodernism, right? My arch enemy. It's like everyone makes their own interpretation of everything. No, but I think you're right there. It's like the goalposts and the Overton window just keeps shifting, and it's kind of like saying this okay now, but then in 5 years it might be like offensive. It's like you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I think personally what we need to do is like everything has a crowd for it, right? Saying something to you as a friend, or being very open or in closed doors is different to saying stuff to a publicly available channel, right? And I think sometimes we like a lot of the things we wouldn't say to someone's face because they might feel offended, but that doesn't mean like I'm trying to hurt them or anything like that. It's like it's hard to explain it in some ways. So for example, you could say something amongst your friends and not mean it in a negative way, but if someone else heard that, they might think you're being aggressive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but are you saying that's a now thing, or are you saying that's always been the case?
That's always been the case, but I think when we publicly say those things, we're now being considered as aggressive or being negative, or because the channel is so much more broader.
Yeah. I'm not so sure. Like, I think that to me that seems like a different issue. Like saying one thing to some, maybe it's if you're talking about maybe certain social issues or whatever, like keeping that to your friend group and what you think about that, different from like the public where you don't really talk about it. I can see that, but I still think that that's kind of a symptom of the hyper sense to take like offense to everything. I think that's kind of like the backdrop underlying layer. But I think we're kind of gone a bit long into deep philosophical things. So I guess we can kind of cap it off with the verdict of whether we think cancel culture does exist or doesn't. What do you think?
I think the definition we have provided, cancel culture exists to an extent, but not in the way a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah, I think I agree there. Cancel culture does exist, but it's not a permanent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Verdict done.